Welcome to the Moffitt Method Podcast, where longtime strength and conditioning coach Tommy Moffitt explores everything from the art of coaching, improving performance, sports nutrition, and mental training. Now, welcome your host, Coach Tommy Moffitt.
Welcome to the Moffitt Method Podcast, and I'm your host, Tommy Moffitt. If you're listening for the first time, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends. For more information about the Moffitt Method Speed, Strength, and Conditioning Program, please visit our website at themoffittmethod.fit or email us at info@themoffittmethod.fit. Our sensational guest today is Coach Jordan Jurasevich. Coach Jurasevich is in his first year as the Director of Sports Performance at Carmel High School in Carmel, Indiana. He graduated from Purdue University in 2016 with a bachelor's degree in applied exercise and health. During his time at Purdue, he was a walk-on the Purdue football team, who later earned a scholarship, became a starter, received the Leonard Wilson Award for unselfishness and dedication, and the Ben Corshot Perseverance Award his senior year. He's also got an amazing story that I'm going to make him talk about during the podcast. Be sure that you listen to it. After graduating from Purdue, Jordan accepted a graduate assistant position at the University of Indianapolis. While at UND, he earned a master's degree in strategic leadership and design. After his time at UND, he became an intern here at LSU. Then Coach accepted his first full-time position at Kennesaw State University. He then moved on to the University of Wyoming, where he worked for Eric Donoval. And after Wyoming, he came back here to LSU as an assistant football strength coach. He spent the last 2 seasons at Baylor University, his last stop before leaving to go home to his home state in Indiana. Coach Jurasevich holds his CSCS certification from the NFCA and is a sports performance coach certification from the United States Weightlifting Association. Jordan is a Crown Point, Indiana native, and he and his wife, Jessica, are the proud parents of a beautiful baby girl, Evelyn. Welcome to the podcast, Coach.
Coach, it's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm excited about this, especially because you're a high school strength coach. And, I know that you've got a great story to tell, and you've had some awesome experiences to get where you are today. So, again, I'm excited about it. So, the first thing off the block, can you talk about your experience walking on at Purdue? I think that's the best way to start this one, because it tells a lot about your character, your work ethic, and the type of person you are. So,
sure. Yeah. So it's kind of a little of a long story, but, coming out of high school, I knew I wanted to play football in college, but just wasn't really recruited. Didn't have any offers, this and that. So I ended up going
not a single offer, not
one offer.
Wow.
Not one, nothing.
Dang.
Yeah. And that was still during the time where it was before Huddle and stuff. So I was still shipping in DVDs and stuff, but I didn't get anything back. So I ended up going to a Division III school named North Central College in Naperville, Illinois, for my first year. And it's a really good school. They're one of the powerhouses in Division III, along with Whitewater and Mount Union. They usually
y'all would have beat the brakes off of Whitewater. Huh?
Yeah, whenever they would play Jake, that was always Whitewater. It was a topic of conversation to have with Jake. So that was my first year, was at North Central, and it was a great year. But after that year, I always deep down knew I wanted to go play at Purdue, or at least give it a shot. So after that year, I kind of just put all my eggs in one basket and decided to transfer to Purdue. And, didn't know any of the coaches, didn't know anybody there.
You hadn't talked to anyone.
No, yeah, didn't talk to anybody at all. I got enrolled into the school and figured out when walk-on tryouts were. And it just so happened that they had a tryout that was just right at the start of school. So, the football season's starting. So I showed up and, they didn't take me. I got cut. So that was the first time I got cut. So I had to wait until the end of the season and figure out when the next walk-on tryout was. And it just so happened that coaching staff ended up getting fired at the end of the season. A new coaching staff came in, and they had another tryout in, I think it was January or February. So I show up to that one. And at this point in time, I was a semester deep at Purdue, but I was just a regular student at the time. So I wasn't a student athlete. And for me, that was quite different when you have all this free time. And I joke with it sometimes with the kids, like, as a student athlete, you always feel like you don't have enough time in your day to do this and that. But for me, having that was good from a structure standpoint. Like, I knew, hey, I only got an hour to get my homework done. I'm going to get it done. Versus when I was just a student, I had all day. So I'm going to play another game of Madden because I can do it on the back end. And then you end up not doing it. So long story short, my first
you showed up.
Well, no, I didn't show up out of shape. My grades were so bad. They were bad. Yeah, grades were bad. So I showed up to this tryout in February, and I was in good shape because I was training. But I knew kind of in the back of my mind that, like, my GPA may be a limiting factor. So anyways, I show up in February, go through this tryout, and it was like a combine style tryout. So we were doing vertical jump, broad jump, 40-yard dash. And then I made it through all that. And the last thing that they had me do, and, there was maybe a group of 15 of us, we had to do 5 half gassers. And it was to see what kind of shape we were in. So I'm like, I'm going to win all these reps. So first whistle, the first rep blows, I take off. And about 10 yards in, hamstring, boom, gone.
Oh, no,
like, pops.
Kidding.
Yeah, bad. So that first rep, I literally jumped on one leg, down and back. And I didn't know what happened. I knew we had 4 more reps and I wasn't going to quit. So, and also in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, I'm not going to quit. I already have something holding me back, maybe with my grades. I'm going to show them how bad I want to make this team. So the next 4 reps, I literally did a single leg bound all the way there and back for the rest of these half gassers.
And nobody tapped you out or anything.
Oh yeah. The trainers were like, they were in my ear like, hey, just come off to the side. You're good. But I wasn't having it. I had to finish that. So I ended up finishing it. And then a few days later, I get the call and they were like, hey, we would love to have you on the team, but we can't have a walk-on that, has a GPA as bad as you have. So I was like, yeah. So that one, the second time really hurt.
Because that was on you.
Yeah, that one was on me. That one was completely on me. And, so that one hurt, and then they got rid of. So I'm like, all right, when's the next tryout? And they were like, it's going to be another year from now. So they stopped doing the one that started right before the season. So I had to wait a whole nother year. I'm training, I'm getting my grades back up, and then I finally made it on that third time. So it took me 3 times to make the team.
Yeah.
And that was just the start of it. I put on the sheet of paper that I was going to play linebacker. So the first day that I made the team, I'm trying to find out where the linebackers meeting room is. And I find it, and Coach Marcus Freeman, who's the head football coach at Notre Dame now, was at the time our linebacker coach. So I knock on the door and I open it and I was like, hey, am I in the right spot? He's like, no, I think you're going to play tight end. So I was like, oh, all right, well, where's that meeting room at? So I find that meeting room. I walk into that meeting room, and there was 10 tight ends that we had on the roster. So I was number 11. And slowly but surely just, worked my way up the depth chart that year because I only had 2 years left to play. So that first year I played on all the special teams and some like short yardage goal line situations as like a fullback. And then my senior year, we maybe had like 5 seniors graduate, which definitely played in my favor.
Yeah.
But they gave me a scholarship, and then I became the starter and played that year.
Yeah.
So it all ended up working out in the year.
Yeah. So when I was a freshman, so what year was that?
So that would have been. So I graduated high school in 2011, and then I graduated. Yeah.
Well, here's my point.
That would have been 14, 15.
Y'all they weren't running the spread either. So there were probably a lot of times there were 2 or 3 tight ends in the game. So that helped. Nowadays there's not 11 tight ends in the SEC. So that helped.
Yeah,
so,
I may have got labeled as a blocking tight end, but
that's okay. No way. I saw you catch a few balls. I saw some film.
Yeah.
So when I was a freshman, to make a phone call home, you either had to have a pocket full of quarters or you had to dial collect. And I would call, and my parents would deny the collect call because they were very expensive, And then in a letter from my mom, she says, don't call collect. Your dad said, do not call collect. Go get some money and, get some quarters and use the payphone. So I hadn't talked to my parents in weeks, Mm-hmm. So when I finally got to talk to my parents, I talked to my mom first. She answered the phone, and then my dad gets on. So he said, how's it going? And I said, Dad, I don't think I'll ever play. And he goes, he got mad. What do you mean? I said, well, Dad, all these guys are just better than I am. They're bigger than I am. They're stronger than I am. They're faster than I am. In my freshman class, there might have been like 35 or 40 guys because this is in 1981. So the rosters were bigger back then. And so my dad's like, don't ever say that, that's not how Moffitt does it and all this. So I was like, okay. So I hung up. So I didn't talk to my dad. I was scared to talk to my dad until I came home for Thanksgiving because I would call when I knew my dad wasn't going to be at home. And so I figured it out through the next time I talk to my dad. I walk in the house and my dad's like, so how's it going? I said, Dad, I'm going to start next year. He goes, what? I thought you said you're never going to play. I said, Dad, guys quit. They flunk out. They get hurt. It's only if I don't quit or something happened to me, they're going to have to play me. And that's ultimately what happened because unlike you, I was the worst player to ever play the game. So, all right. Well, good, man. I wanted you because that's the type of employee that you are too. You're not going to be denied. And that's the type of people that I always wanted to have on my staff. So that's why I wanted you to tell the story. I think it's a great story. All right. So tell us how you got started in the field of strength and conditioning. Yeah.
So unlike a lot of the guests that you've had previously on the podcast, I knew strength and conditioning was a profession really early on. My junior year, we had a new strength coach, Mark Garrett, who's been on the podcast already.
Mm-hmm.
And he completely completely changed the culture, standards, expectations of what strength and conditioning was at Crown Point at the time. So that's kind of what got my mind turning on strength and conditioning. And, really when it was during that whole process when I was trying to walk on the team, because there was a big period of, 2 years where I wasn't on the team. Right. That's when I really started to dig into it a little bit more. And I knew that whenever I was done playing football, that this is what I wanted to do. So when I was done playing at Purdue, University of Indianapolis opened up a graduate assistant spot, and Coach Garrett, he knew Steve Barrick, so he put in a good word for me. And So I went down to UIndy and started in strength and conditioning as a GA, and was there for 2 years, and then went down to LSU, and the rest has
history.
led me up to Carmel. So yeah.
Yeah. So Coach Barrick was on here 2 weeks ago, I think, and we talked about how Indiana is the cradle of strength and conditioning, cradle of coaches for strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
And I think your name got mentioned in there, but great people.
I hope so.
Great people, man. And I'm serious. There have been a lot of really good strength coaches that have come from the area, and Coach Garrett does a great job. And, you and I used to talk about it all the time. And Steve does a great job too at UIndy. So, now did you work? A lot of good coaches, man. Yeah. Now, did you work with Cody when you were at UIndy? How far were you and Cody Stout apart?
Yeah, so I must have just missed him. I think he was heading down to LSU when I was just coming in as a GA.
Okay.
So, it's funny because, and I may have met Cody one time, but it's, I got to UIndy and he was gone, and then I went to LSU and he was gone. But I see all this stuff, there's a stapler that has Stout on it. It's like I'm just following in this guy's
a legend.
Yeah.
A legend. A legend. Yeah. All right, good deal. All right, can you talk about Coach Garrett and what type of influence he has had on you, or had on you as a player and now as a coach? Can you say a little bit more about him?
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say is, if you want to expedite your career, you got to find good mentors. And a good mentor is going to teach you more than any book, video, podcast, whatever. And I'm forever indebted to Coach Garrett, in more ways than he even knows. Not only did he prepare me to play college football, from a physical standpoint, that first day, I remember going in the weight room at Purdue, they were teaching us a snatch progression, and I'm just going through it like they're coaching me to do. But at the end of that session, one of our strength coaches comes up to me. He's like, "Have you done this before?" And I'm like, "Yeah, done it a few times."
You were ripping that bar.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and that was all Coach Garrett preparing me for the physical demands of the game. And, I could pretty much plug and play right into, Purdue's strength and conditioning program. So, from a player standpoint, he helped tremendously in that, but, more so as a coach, there's a lot of the teaching progressions and principles and cues and stuff that I've learned through him that I still use today. And, I'll say this too, probably the most influential thing that Coach Garrett has given me is his belief. Yeah. And, it taught me what the power of believing in someone can do. Because he was one of the few people that, stuck with me and kept believing in me during that, that walk-on tryout process at Purdue. He was always in my corner, always being encouraging and, helped me eventually get there. And, so it made me think of this study, and the study is called the Harvard Test of Inflected Acquisition. So mouthful. Yeah. But anyways, in this study, they took this classroom and they had the students take a test. And based on their test results, they either deemed you a high potential learner or a low potential learner. So they had them broken down, but they didn't tell the students which category they were in, but they told the teacher. So after, 6-8 weeks, I don't know how long the study was, but, as you would expect, the high potential learners were doing really well in the class, and the low potential learners were not doing well in the class. Yeah. But the whole flip side of it was, the tests that they took had no relevance towards their intelligence at all. And they just randomized it. So the conclusion of the study was they found the way in which the teachers thought about the students, it completely determined how well they did in the class. So for somebody who was a high potential learner, the teacher may have been more warm in their approach. They may have given them more chances or opportunities, more willing to stick with them, versus the low potentials. They were like, yeah, you're not going to figure it out, so I'm not going to waste my time. Yeah. And that has everything to do with belief. Yeah. And that has everything to do with coaching. And that's what Coach Garrett, the most influential thing that he's done for me in my career is his belief in me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you, because, I know they have a weightlifting team now. Did you lift for him in competition?
So I did a little bit. I mostly played football and basketball in high school, but my senior year, I decided to not do basketball in the winter. And
it's probably a good idea.
In basketball, I was a great rebounder, gave great effort,
great fouler.
Played great defense, and I set some mean screens. But that when I decided that it was probably in my best interest to play college football, that's when I was like, instead of playing basketball in the winter, I'm going to go lift. So I did a few competitions with Coach Garrett, which was fun.
Yeah. All right. And here's why I asked, do you remember what your snatch was? What's your best high school snatch?
Ooh, I don't think it was quite, it might've been around 100 kilos.
Yeah. That's not bad.
It might have been around 100 kilos. Yeah, I can't exactly remember.
What about best clean?
It was
clean and jerk.
Best clean and jerk was
130.
I think it was probably 140.
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah,
you were strong.
So that was all right.
Yeah. Well, good. All right. So moving on. What went into the decision to transition from coaching in college to coaching in high school?
Yeah, so that's a great question.
And we've never talked about this, so inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah. So I'll first off start by saying that coaching in college was awesome. And I'm super grateful for my experiences, the connections I was able to make, and like I said before, if you want to expedite your career, find good mentors. And I've worked for some of the best in the profession. But ultimately what drove the decision to come to high school, there's a few things, if you look at, the last 5 years, I've lived in 5 different states. So there was a lot of moving going on, and mostly that was due to my own choices, when you're climbing up the ladder. And, but with that, relocating was very easy when I was young and I didn't have anything, and less commitments, I think. So when I got my first full-time job, coming out of LSU as an intern at Kennesaw State, I might have been gone in less than an hour because I just didn't have anything.
Yeah.
So I packed my truck up and I'm gone. And, now that I have a family, we have our baby girl, Evelyn, things are a little bit different. Moving would become a little bit more different. And then you're asking your family to pick up and start somewhere new too. So there's a couple different things. Being closer to home was another thing. In those 5 different states, I mean, we probably didn't live anywhere closer than 12 hours away from Crown Point. So really what it became is I may go back to Crown Point and see, and that's where me and Jessica are both from.
Yeah, you're both from Crown Point. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we may go back for a week or two in the month of May. And then it was like, hey, maybe we'll see you during Christmas, but we also kind of hope we don't because
I hope you're in a bowl game.
That we're playing in a good bowl game. So, there's a lot that went into the decision, but overall, I just felt like it was the best decision for our family. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's what you do. That's what I did. I stayed at LSU for 21 years because my wife is from New Orleans. Didn't make sense to go anyplace else. And I'd coached here, combined. In fact, I don't even know, it's been so long. So it's 23. I've lived in Louisiana for 29 years. I lived in Tennessee for probably 24 years. I've spent more time, living in Louisiana than I have any place ever. So this is home to me, So I know exactly what you're talking about. You have to do what's best for the family. Yeah. In fact, every decision that I ever made professionally was based on what was best for my family. It's just what you do, Yeah. All right, good
being
deal.
2 hours away, because we're in Carmel now, so being 2 hours away is pretty good.
Oh, that's easy, man.
We've probably seen our families more in the last 2 months than probably the last 5 years in college. Yeah. So, it comes with some pros. So
yeah. So Jill and I, when we left New Orleans to move to Knoxville, I thought, I'm going to see my family a bunch, but I had one brother that had tickets to the game. Everybody else is like, we're not driving to Knoxville to see you. So, so then when I moved to Miami, everybody came. Everybody. Yeah. I was like, no, sorry, this weekend Jill's family's here. No, sorry, next weekend so-and-so's here. Everybody wanted to come to Miami.
Yeah.
So, that's cool. All right. So I did a little research, on Carmel, and I got some numbers here, and I can't list them all, but the school's athletic department has won a total of 170 state championships. Almost fell out of my chair when I read it. I'm not kidding you. And I've been, like at John Curtis, we won a lot of championships there, but 170 championships is unbelievable. And here was the stat that got me more than anything. Since 2011, your high school, not Crown Point, but Carmel, they've won 7 state championships in the same year, 8 different times. That's 56 state championships in 8 years. And that's not all of the state championships that you won, because you obviously won between, 2011 and 2023, you won, many, but you won 8 different times. That's unbelievable. So I'm going to list them real quick. So boys swimming, 17 state championships. Girls swimming, 32 state championships. Football, 9. So y'all won it last year. Boys basketball, 5. Boys cross country, 17. Girls cross country, 19. Boys golf, 7. Girls golf, 3. Girls soccer, 10. Girls tennis, 13. Boys tennis, 5. That's unbelievable. And then there was a lot of other ones. Now, do y'all have wrestling? I didn't see any. All right. That guy,
yes, we do.
That guy's got to pick it up. Because I was like, no state championships. What are they doing?
A lot of those. That's I don't even know about all those, those stats that you just named.
It's amazing. Yeah, I had to do some searching now, but I do my homework. So, 32 state championships in girls swimming. So y'all must have a big natatorium, or is it?
It's huge. And they're actually building a whole nother one. So there's
I
going
bet
to be
they
4
are.
of them. Yeah, it's
Yeah, almost 50 state championships out of the 2 teams. 50
yeah,
out of 2 teams. So
yeah, they're
who's the coach? Is it the same person? I mean,
yeah. I
Newt
think he's been
Rockne.
here. He's been here a while, and they have, they start them when they're young. And
Yeah. Oh, I bet. Yeah.
yeah,
They have
and
a club.
they're always in the weight room, and they come in so many different groups throughout the day, after school, before school. But they've just got a tradition of winning. It's quite impressive.
Yeah. So Jill was a swimmer, and she swam for this guy that had similar success, and swimming's a whole different sport. But it's good to know that they're in the weight room, and we're going to get into that. So, all right. So here's my point, and the reason why I wanted to talk about those stats. The level of commitment from the administration, the coaches, the parents, and the athlete has got to be phenomenal. What are some of the things that you have seen that support and maintain a culture like that of winning so many championships? Like, what's the difference that you noticed at that place?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll start by saying that I think the position that they opened up for me is a reflection of that. Carmel High School has had a strength coach, Aaron Bosket, for, I think he's been here since 2005 and does a great job. But there's not a lot of high schools that have 2 strength coaches.
Yeah.
So it's pretty unique. So I think the fact that they had opened this position, first off, that reflects the commitment that they have towards, because as a strength coach, in high school, you can influence the whole athletic department.
Yeah.
And, it's a unique situation. But Carmel, I mean, it's almost like a small college. They're constantly building stuff. There's a new indoor football facility that's going up right now. There's a new football operations center where they're going to have meeting rooms going up now. We already talked about the new swimming pools that are going in. They're adding more space to the school for more classes. So it's just every time you look, there's construction going somewhere, and they're just adding on to it. It's pretty crazy.
How many students are in the school?
Yeah, so it might be near 6,000 students now. I know it's above 5,500. Yeah. I don't know how many elementary schools. I know there's 3 middle schools that are a part of our school district, and there's more than 5,500 students here.
So y'all have to be. No wonder you have 2 strength coaches. All right, so y'all probably have 600 athletes or more.
So, and I don't know for sure, but I've heard the number is 1,600 student athletes.
What?
Yeah. Now we're not able to, with our system and the way it's set up now, we can't train all 1,600. We've kind of maxed out our class sizes to. We've got anywhere between 100 and 120 per class.
That's amazing. Well, tell them the Moffitt Method can help.
Yeah.
We'll train them.
Yeah.
Wow, dude, that is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So y'all must be in you have to be in the highest classification in the state, correct?
Yeah. We're 6A.
Yeah. Wow.
Biggest school in the state. Probably one of the bigger ones in
the country.
Maybe one. Yeah, probably.
Texas has got some big ones. So let me ask, all right, so we could talk about this all night. So it's amazing, man. So you have a freshman team for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have 2 freshman teams or just 1 freshman team?
Just one freshman team. We got a
and
JV
then
team,
JV. Yeah. So the boys. So at Catholic, there was. I'm gonna just guess and say there was probably 1,500 boys, I guess, or more. Yeah, probably 1,500 boys, I guess. And when Clay was a freshman, there were 69 boys that came out for that tried out for the freshman baseball team. And they're so good because they have 69 guys try out for freshman baseball. I think the freshman football team probably had 80 guys. And I would imagine y'all's freshman team has close to 100 kids, right?
Yeah. There's a good amount of kids there.
Yeah. And that's why you're so successful. You have so many kids to choose from. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
So, all right. So this was an important question for me. And, because you're a new father, 8 months. So
yeah,
little Evie's 8 months old. Yeah. So you're still a new father. I'm an old father. You're a new father. So has becoming a father changed how you look at the next generation of young men and women? And it's got to be rewarding for you to see. There goes my guard dog. It's got to be rewarding for you to be able to see what young men and women are capable of doing. So how has that been?
Yeah. So becoming a father has, it's definitely changed my perspective a little bit. Probably given me a little bit more patience with development. And it's crazy to see how quickly, people develop.
Yeah.
Evelyn, she's hitting milestones now. I mean, if I didn't see her for a week, she'd be doing something new. It's like every week there's something new, and it's super rewarding to see. And, it's the same thing with these young high school athletes. I've only been here at Carmel for two months now, and it's crazy to see, like, we really haven't even done all that much stuff. Yeah. And the amount of improvement that the kids have seen is pretty crazy to see in such a short time span. But, really with it all is, I think there's just so much more to parenting and coaching. You talk about mindset, you talk about the mental controlling the physical, all these life lessons that you can teach, growth versus fixed mindset, fighting against instant gratification, comparison is the thief of joy, fighting against complacency. There's so many different things that go into like transformational coaching, and getting stronger and winning games and championships is awesome. And that's rewarding too. But yeah, it's really all kind of short-term success. Yeah. I would say that seeing the type of person that, they become as part of the process is the most rewarding side of it all.
Yeah. And you'll have a much better perspective on all of this once Evie comes home after a couple of semesters in college and her grades are back. That is when you're like, oh my gosh. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Oh, shoot. All right. So you had 4 really good jobs: Kennesaw State, LSU, Wyoming, Baylor. Mm-hmm. To now. What's it been like transitioning from those places to being the director there at Carmel now?
Yeah. So, if any one of the people that I've worked with came to see a training session at Carmel, they would definitely see bits and pieces of what we did there. Mm-hmm. The first, I'll say this, it starts with having a plan with what you want to do. But you also have to understand that things don't go according to plan. But good coaches are always going to figure it out. And, if you're in the eye of the storm, if you have a good pulse on the team and understand that what you have written in paper is a living, breathing document that's subject to change, that's how you can ultimately push the program in the right direction. So I would say, as I've transitioned, it's gotten me to think about some different types of things. One of them being logistics. We've got a nice size weight room. I think it's 10,000 square feet. But with the way in which it's set up, we've got 24 racks, 16 platforms, in a nice open area where you can do a bunch of different stuff. So I don't want to say it's like forced us to utilize a station style system, but it's definitely more optimal to do it because you just can't have
you got 100
follow the card.
You got 100 people in there.
So we do stations, and it's it ends up being 8 to 10 minutes a station roughly. So figuring out how to make that style work effectively was big in the transition because I had never done that before. And then figuring out the cultural side of things is a big piece of it too. We're just 2 months in now. We're kind of getting out of this honeymoon phase where everything was new and exciting, and now we're at the point where the standard has been set. People know what to expect. They know they're going to be held accountable, but we've kind of got to move from this, almost fear-based approach where I don't want to get reloaded, to where they can hit it on all cylinders, give max effort, and know and feel confident in themselves. Because fear can be a great motivator, but I think it's only for the short term. There's got to be something that transcends from that. In order to do your best work, you got to be free of fear. And at the end of the day, training isn't punishment. Training is preparation. So finding ways to build that in the mindset of our athletes, moving from compliance to commitment, inspiring the athletes to take ownership of the program. These are all things that are in my, headspace now, whereas as an assistant, maybe that doesn't come across my mind.
Yeah. So, as an assistant, you do what you're told. And then as the director, you got to figure it out.
Yeah. The kids and coaches, I don't know what it is about figure it out, but I have said that so many different times because they have to figure it out.
Figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. And they do. They end up doing it. But there's no, at LSU, we used to say we're going to coach every rep of every set every day. And that's just not the case. Like, we can't do that here. You've got to allow some kind of bandwidth. Obviously you always have a technical model and this is what you're striving to do, but you've also got to understand it's not going to be perfect. But they'll end up figuring it out.
Well, yeah, they'll figure it out. But here's the thing. Over time, it becomes, you just try to keep doing the same thing correctly over and over and over again. And then they finally get it. Because that's the way it is. When I was at Curtis, it was me. It was just me. And, it's like throwing mud on the wall and some of it falls off and you pick it up and you throw it back on there and some falls off and you just keep throwing it up there until until it sinks in.
Yeah.
So what are some of the biggest differences that you have seen from coaching in college, now that you mentioned that, to coaching in high school? Like you just mentioned.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest differences?
I think the first one that comes to mind is training age. In college, a challenge is you're getting these athletes from all different, all different parts of the world, with all different types of experiences. Some that have great high school training experience, some that have, none,
Zero.
Some that have bad, and versus, you can kind of assume that they're going to start from, a training age of 0 in high school. So you can really build them up and start from ground zero, and it's truly developmental.
Yeah.
So that would probably be the first thing that comes to my mind. But at the end of the day, you got to meet them where they're at. And that it doesn't matter whether that's high school, middle school, college, professional. You got to find out where they're at, meet them there, and then, take them to where you need them to go. but in high school, generally speaking, they're gonna, some of our kids probably don't even know how to tie their shoes still.
Yeah.
So you're starting from the ground up, but with that, I'd say that they're definitely more moldable, which can almost be a bad thing in a way, because you can probably still see some results doing some stuff that you shouldn't probably be doing. And when you talk about long-term athletic development, and how you apply stimuluses, you got to understand that, like, if you expose an athlete to a stimulus that they're not ready for, you're robbing them twice. You're robbing them in the moment because they're not ready for it. And then later on, they're kind of messed up. They may be desensitized to the stimulus. So you're robbing them twice. So I've always kind of gone into it with the mindset that the long-term consistency is always going to trump the short-term intensity. And there's no single lift that's going to be worth the next day, week, month, year of rehab, because you can't make up for missed training time. So, yeah.
All right.
That would probably be the main thing. Another difference too, I would say, is getting the buy-in from the sport coaches may be a little bit more important in high school, just because, and it's important in college too, but in high school, there's just so many athletes, there's so many teams that, and each team has its own little culture. And if their sport coach isn't pushing it, well, it's not going to be as important. And then, the last thing I would say is the communication and education of the parents, because in high school, the parents are they're more heavily involved than what they are in college. So, they're the ones that are buying the meals, this and that. So the communication with the parents is definitely a big thing as well.
From the time that you arrive on campus in the morning until you leave in the afternoon, what's a normal day look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So at Carmel, we're block scheduled. So we got our blue and gold days. There's 4 classes a day, 90-minute sessions. The school day doesn't start until 9:05, which is super late. Yeah.
Why is that? Busing? Is that because of the buses, or?
I don't know for sure. I know the middle schools start, I think, an hour earlier than what we do.
That's what it is. It's buses.
Yeah. So we end up getting out late too. It's at 4:05, but the 9:05 start's kind of nice,
Yeah. Especially when you got a child.
So I show up, if I can show up, earlier than that, and work out or get anything done that I need to do.
Yeah.
Get ready for the day. And then, we coach, like I said, it's 4 classes per day, but it's really 3 of our APC class. Because on both days, our gold day, we have this thing called SSRT, which is student supported resource time, where they can go and pick and choose, like in an area that they're struggling with, and get extra resources through that class.
That's awesome.
It's nice. And then the other day, the blue day, I have a prep period. So it really ends up being 3 classes that I teach throughout the day. And then, as it is right now, there's no before or after school stuff. That'll change because I need to get the middle school program going and this and that. But as of right now, it's just 9:05 to 4:05.
Yeah. So when sports start? When does practice start?
Yeah. So practice, well, for football, once the school day ends at 4:05, they have to they got to walk. So all of our students, they can't even park like on the campus of the school because there's so much construction that's going on. So they've got a little bit of a hike to walk to their cars. Everybody parks at the football stadium, which is, it's probably only 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
But they give them time to walk down there. And then football, they usually do meetings beforehand. So practice will start, shortly after that.
Yeah. You got to be organized, man.
Mm-hmm.
Got to be organized. So tell me about what the advanced physical condition. What's that class? What's it look like?
Yeah. So in order
APC.
to be, APC, in order to be in APC, you got to be on an athletic roster. Yeah. So that's the whole thing with the class. Now, most of the classes are mixed. We've got different sports, different age groups, different genders, but they made a new class this time around where our G1 class is just football and basketball. So that one's kind of nice to have. But, APC is, it's a athletic development class designed to make you a better athlete. I'm not trying to make anybody a weightlifter. The goal of the class is to make you a better athlete and transfer it to the field, and strength and conditioning is multidisciplinary. So, we take from different training methods, track and field, Olympic weightlifting, powerlifting, strongman, you name it. We take from all of it, put it together in a comprehensive program designed to make you better. And that's what the class is. It's more of a, it's almost more of a shotgun approach. So we, you can call it concurrent periodization, vertical integration, whatever you want to call it. They're total body lifts with a little bit of everything in each day. So we
you got 90 minutes.
Throw. Yeah, which is nice to have. And we warm up. We do different movements in the warm up, and I think that's a big piece of it, because if you can't move, it doesn't matter how strong or powerful you are. If you can't move, you can't play your sport.
No.
So it's nice to have the 90-minute blocks, because you can truly do a little bit of everything.
Yeah. When I was a coach, we had probably 35 minutes from the time we got dressed until we had to stop. So, we were limited with what we were able to do. And we had a group in the morning. We called it Breakfast Club, where they would come in the morning before school. And then we had, people that would work out after school. And I would, so I'd put the workout on the board, and I would either go coach the football team or a wrestling team, and then during weightlifting season, my weightlifters would come in for extras, front squats, extra jerks and stuff like that. So you just had to make it work. But now you got 90 minutes. All right. So let me ask you this question. So you've got mixed genders, mixed sports. So do those teams work out together in a pod and then go between stations, or is it just like, man, I know it's not chaos, but like, how do you group those different teams so that they're able to rotate and do the stuff that they need to do?
Yeah. So we've got, as it is right now, we've got two different programs going on at one time. The first one is the rookie program, and the rookie program is designed to capture any student that's new to the class.
Yeah.
So they're just learning the basic fundamental lifts, how to squat, how to hinge, how to lunge.
Yeah. Block zero.
Block zero training is what it is. And then everybody else, as it is right now, is in the base group. And, I've already mentioned before, we do station, it's station based. And what I've found is, if you just go through, say we do 6 stations, if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and just assign, however much time you have after the warm up, say you got, 90 minutes, say we're working with 60 minutes and you go 10 minutes per station. Well, I started to look at it, and it's like, well, we don't need 10 minutes to do, some of these auxiliary
4 sets
lifts.
of 5. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's some lifts, where we're doing our explosive cleans and squats where maybe you need a little bit more time. So what we ended up moving to, so we still do the 6-station circuit, but, within our base group, you're revolving around these 3 stations, and then the rookies are revolving around these 3 stations, 4, 5, and 6. and what that allows us to do is be a little bit more flexible with our time. So, for that base group, if we're going to do some kind of jump, some kind of Olympics lift, and some kind of squat, I can, because they're starting with that, I can allot for a little bit more time on that side of things. Mm-hmm. And then when we transition and flip the room, when they go to exercises or stations 4, 5, and 6, those can be a little bit quicker. So so it's broken down into two different programs right now. And, I don't know, because I'm just a little wary about dividing so much. I don't want to get spread too thin, but there may be a point in time where we do a third one as well, but that's not yet. So.
Yeah. So, all right, I got so many questions. So, the men and the women do, I mean, it's very similar, correct? Or the exact same?
Yeah, it's the exact same. The only thing that I guess you can say is a change is we got, women's bars, which
you're getting fancy.
So it's nice to have. And our girls, when I was excited to have these. And when I introduced them to it, they were like, well, how much does the bar weigh? And I was like, well, it's not 45 pounds. It's a little bit lighter. They were like, well, I don't want it, And I was like, all right, put your hand up to mine. And their hand, reaches up to that. I was like, that's, you can still put 400 pounds on this bar. The whole purpose of this bar is to help you with your grip. The diameter of the bar is different. And they were like, oh, okay. Yeah. So now they've bought into them, which is cool. It's nice to have. But that's really the only difference. They go through the same stuff.
Yeah. What kind of plates do y'all have?
Yeah, they're so we've got Perform. Now we don't have Alico. We've got Perform Better plates. We're probably due for some new plates here soon. We need some more, and especially as we get more progressed down the line with our Olympic list. Because right now we're doing cleans. They're to the point now where they probably can snatch. I haven't introduced it yet, but the time is coming. So
all right. What? Well, they may not. But what about people who miss workouts or come in late? Like, do y'all have that? Is that an issue?
It's really not an issue. Part of that, with our school being so big, we've got 10-minute passing periods, which is a good amount of time. So they show up. We've got them in different locker rooms. They get dressed. And then we give them an additional 4 minutes to be dressed and ready and seated in their attendance line. So it's quick for us to take attendance. It takes less than a minute, scan the lines. Hey, there's a blank spot here. Who is it? All right. Mark him as absent. But we don't really have any issues with anybody showing up late. Now, if you miss a lift, that's where the SSRT on the gold days can come into play. So if you miss a lift, you got to make it up. Yeah, you got an opportunity to make it up. So
no stairway.
No stairway. No stairways to heaven.
All right. What about workout uniforms? Does everyone wear the same gear?
Not quite. Not quite. And I don't know if they've done it in the past. I've heard other schools, you can put it in the student fees and this and that and order uniforms. That's not the way that we do it here. I just tell them on the first day, like, hey, you got to wear something in our color spectrum. Yeah. So blue, gold, black, white. So as long as you're doing that, that's really the main uniform thing. There's no hats, no earrings. We're still sticklers on the jewelry just because it's a safety concern, especially when you're doing cleans and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, good. All right. Did your light go out?
Yeah, it's getting a little dark here. I might have to flick it on.
Yeah, flick it on. Flick it on.
All right.
Yeah, this is not the first time it's happened. So there we go.
All right, we're back in business.
Yeah, it's not the first time. See, it's still light out here, so we're good. All right, so you mentioned they're about ready to start doing snatches. So how are you going to go about teaching the Olympic lifts, and how have you gone about teaching the power clean?
Yeah. So that's a good question. I kind of looked at it from maybe a little different perspective this time around, just because the time and year in which I got hired. Some of the fall, if you're a senior and you're a fall sport, I'm only going to work with you for a few months. So I didn't want to do them a disservice and start them from a broomstick, or, you know what I mean? So, to their credit, they already had a solid foundation, and, they knew how to RDL, they knew how to front squat, they knew how to do all the foundational lifts. So I just kind of started them right up, and, was top down in the approach. We started from the mid thigh, progressed to below the knee, and then we put it on the floor, and, it seemed to work good. It was probably a little bit more fast tracked than what I would normally do.
Mm-hmm.
But they already had a solid foundation. And then because of our station style, workout structure, I'm only looking at, 8 platforms at a time. So it's a little bit easier to coach them through it when there's only 8 platforms, versus if you had the whole room doing it, there'd be no way.
Yeah.
And then there are some few, there's a few tricks that I've kind of used with varying the way in which we do lifts. For example, one of my favorite things to do with the guys is have them pause in the rack position.
Yeah.
So, the way in which I've kind of put either a tempo or, a certain way to perform it, it kind of helps them, address certain issues. So that pause in the rack position, if you're time, it helps them understand their timing. So as soon as I hear your feet, the bar's on your shoulders. So, elbows are hitting at the same time that I hear your feet. It helps people understand to jump and land and not jump and stand. When you're just doing power cleans, a lot of people will jump the bar up and just stand with it, and they don't land in a good athletic position. Well, if you pause, it gives them time to figure it out.
Yeah.
Once again, there you go, figure it out.
Yeah, figuring it out. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's been some different variations. I threw in one the other day. We were hitting some heavy cleans, and it made me think to have them do a hovering power clean. So we picked it off the floor for 1 inch, just so the weights were hovering, and then they performed the lift there. And the reason why I threw that one in there was, it helps them understand to keep the bar close to the body. If that bar is away from your body, you're going to fall forward. It helps them understand where their balance is in their foot. If you got too much pressure in the front side of your foot, you're going to fall forward. That hovering power clean it's kind of a cheat code to help them take the slack out of the bar, because the slack's out of the bar.
Yeah, that's what I would. Yeah, they're not going to jerk it off the ground. They're going to keep their arms straight and a lot. Yeah. Shoulders over the bar. There's a lot. I like that.
Yeah. So
So Aaron Osmus sent me a video today of because he's coaching his 2 sons that play high school football now. And so he picked this up from Travis Mash, where they do 2, the first pull is off the ground. Then the next 2 are hovers, and they're pulls, clean pulls. Mm-hmm. And then they finish with a power clean. So it's neat that you mentioned that, because that's what AA has sent me. He sent me 2 videos today of the boys, the Osmus boys, doing, it was clean pulls plus power clean. And the second 2 pulls, first pull was off the floor, and then the next 2 pulls were hover pulls. And then they finished the set with a power clean. And it looked good. I like that. So, I like that. You might want to throw that in. Give Travis and AA some credit.
Yeah. I'm going to definitely take a mental note of that one. So,
so what kind of technologies do y'all have?
Yeah. So, it's actually pretty crazy. You know, within our 24 racks that we have elite form on all of them.
Oh, wow.
Which is really cool. You know, and when I first got the job, I was kind of, you know, to be honest, I was kind of against using VBT in high school because I just didn't know if it was necessary. And the way in which I grew up, you know, in my high school, you know, we didn't use it. We didn't need it.
Yeah, mine neither.
Yeah. And you know, there are some things to consider if you're using the VBT because, you know, athletes are competitive, and when you put that elite form on, like they will, you know, if you're not careful, they'll sacrifice technique to get that speed.
Oh, they'll sacrifice a lamb.
So
especially high school kids.
Yeah. So originally I was kind of you know, against it, and I didn't turn it on for a little while. But then, you know, 2 months in now, I've really realized how much an asset that it is to have it.
Yeah, because you can put limiters on them, huh?
Exactly. And then, you know, probably the most important thing is the accountability. You know, like when I program 5 sets of 3, you know, and I don't see you didn't do 5 sets, well, what's going on? You know,
I like that.
Or, hey, you know, we had 80% program today. Why'd you miss this rep? You know, because it was too heavy.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, that was probably the biggest thing, and just making sure that what was prescribed was actually getting done.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like you had just mentioned, you know, we were able to you know, a week or two ago, we worked up heavy in some front squats, and I just had a velocity cutoff for them, you know, and I said, hey guys, this isn't going to be a true 1 rep max test. You know, once you pass this threshold, I understand that you can do more weight. I don't need to see it. You know, and if you move 300 pounds at this speed, understand I'm going to have you train off of 315. You know, I'm not going to just end what you did on your last set. Like, you know, we'll guesstimate it from there, but it just, you know, it helps eliminate a lot of missed reps. You know, and then the last thing it does is it helps track the long-term progress. You know, it's easy to look back, you know, if you're 3-4 years into the program, you can go back and see, hey, this is what you started out at, you know, versus, you know, it'd be tough to do hand jamming all that stuff in. So.
Yeah. So now let me ask you this part. Do y'all use the workout aspect of the elite form? So are you inputting your program in elite form so that they don't need a workout card or the television, et cetera?
Mm-hmm. No. So not exactly. We still, you know, I still use PowerPoint. We've got, I think 6 TVs throughout the weight room, and I put it on the TV for them to look at. Yeah. And then I just go in there and on the Elite Form website, I plug in, hey, you know, this is what we're going to track today. Yeah. It's front squat. It's, you know, 6 sets of 2 at this speed. Yeah. And then they know that when they get to the front squat station that they have to log themselves in. Their weights are already in there.
Cool.
So not the whole entire workout is in there, but just the main ones that we're tracking.
Yeah. All right. So when it comes to developing weight room culture, rules, expectations, what are some of the things that you did early on to make sure that they understood what your expectations were, and how are you continuing to ensure that they're, you know, doing what they're supposed to do?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And, you know, probably the most important thing to establish when you're taking over a program, you know, and I just simply told them that we're going to do things right or we're going to do it over. So, you know, I told them what the expectations were. I showed them how to perform the drills. You know, hey, when we do this warm-up drill, our toes are going to be behind the line. When we finish, you know, we're going to leave no doubt on the finish plus 2 yards beyond the stopping distance. And if we don't do that, we're going to send everybody back. And, we're not going to move on until everybody does it right. And, it was kind of funny. The first day, we got 90-minute classes, and I don't even know if we made it into the weight room on the first day.
I've seen that.
we probably had over 100.
Do it again.
Reloads.
Yeah.
Danging. But, just digging them left and right. And, I told them, I'm like, guys, I'm not making this up. Like, there are toes on the line, and it'd be like the 5th, 6th, 7th guy in line stands up to the line, and they're not paying attention. They're on the line. So I got to send everybody back. But what it started to become was pretty cool because, especially on the finishes, the guys got so tired of being sent back that they started coaching the 3rd, 4th, 5th guy in their line, hey, make sure we finish +2, leave no doubt. They're saying the same stuff that, I've been saying, and they're coaching them up. And
it's leadership.
So it was pretty cool to see that. So, it shows that they're taking ownership of it, which is a big piece.
Yeah. And, it's not, when I was young, and I'm sure even when you were young, you held each other accountable because it was the right thing to do. But I think to some degree, and we saw this occasionally, that, it's not cool for some people to do that now. And, but that's not the way it is in real life. If you're an employee for a company, and if you're a supervisor, you have to tell people what to do. If you're ever in charge of others, that's just what you do. That's what we do as adults. And the sooner you learn that, the better it is. And for the young people, they don't always get to do things the way they want to do them. And the weight room and the things that you're doing are an extension of the practice field. And if you let people cut corners in your work, they're going to cut corners when they get to the practice field. That's just the way it is. It's your responsibility to hand them over to the coaching staff. And if the coaches don't mind if they're standing on the line, then they can stand on the line, but you got to draw the line somewhere. Because you're, that's part of your responsibilities as the coach.
Yeah. And it's kind of cool to see, our football and basketball teams are, the football coach, the head football coach, and the offensive coordinator and the head basketball coach are also in the weight room with us.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. So it's nice. We've got a lot of, hands on deck. There's a lot of supervision. But what's really cool is when I go and watch their practices, they're holding them to the same standard that we're holding them into the weight room. So you're hearing a lot of the same verbiage, which is really
cool. That's why you've won 170 state championships there. That's amazing. All right. Well, let me ask you this. All right. We've talked a lot about, your college coaching days and the time now at Carmel. So I have a question to ask you, and this could be the most important question of the whole thing. How old will little Evie be before you let her pick up a bar and start banging out some heavy squats and pulls like Daddy?
Yeah. So she's in the 99th percentile for height.
Ooh.
So we may have a volleyball or basketball player coming up.
That is awesome.
But she's been in the weight room a few times already to watch, mom and dad lift. We superset our squats with holding her and keeping her preoccupied. And it's almost like, I don't know that you would remember the subliminal messages that we would put on the workout screen at LSU, in between so she's getting subliminals right now, but I don't know when she'll start, but it's fun.
Yeah. My kids grew up in there. And it's funny, you know, whether it's so at Tennessee, at Tennessee, they called Clay Pocket Hercules, you know, and then at Miami, you know, they all knew Aaron for spitting up on me one day. And, you know, so there was a sled. We were doing sled pulls one day, and Clay grabs the sled harness and throws it on his shoulders and takes off sprinting. There's probably, 90 pounds on the sled. And when the cord got tight, Clay does a backflip, And then there's a story, at LSU about Brady was standing up on the catwalk, that ran down, where the video guys were. Brady had snuck up there because I was supposed to be watching him, but we had practice. And Jill had dropped him off, keep your eye on Brady. Don't let him get hurt. That's what she would always say when she dropped him off. So Brady climbs up the catwalk and, he was probably 8 years old. And I'm at the other end of the field and, one of the equipment managers like, Coach, you got to go get Brady. And I look. And so Brady was up there screaming, hey, Les, because he knew Coach from baseball because Manny and Ben played with Clay and Aaron. So, yeah, my kids grew up there, man. They and it's good for them, man. It's good for them.
Yeah, it's good for them. It's good for them for sure.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on here, man. Great info. I think everyone that listens to this episode is going to get a lot out of it. So I appreciate you coming on here today. And I know it's been a long day for you. So I appreciate it. And do me a favor, please tell Jess that the Moffitts all said hello. You got you a winner right there, man. So
no doubt, no question.
And I know she's keeping you straight too.
Yeah, she is. She definitely is. So, yeah, I will. And thanks for having me on, Coach. It's been an honor.
You're very welcome. So now I'm fixing to go shovel some grub down my throat, and I have to go do a podcast. So I have to go. I'm a guest on a podcast that I got to drive to. So I got to roll out, but I appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome. Okay, so this brings us to the end of today's podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed this one as much as I did. I know you're going to get a lot out of it. So please make sure that you subscribe and share this episode with a friend. For more information about the Moffitt Method program and everything that we have to offer, please email us at info@themoffittmethod.fit or visit our website, themoffittmethod.fit. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you again next Wednesday. Bye-bye.